Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon on assignment in Chicago.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Assignment? Are you the Grand Marshal of the Ben Johnson Parade in Chicago?
That was yesterday.
Oh.
You're a day late. We're not late here on our new savior, Ben Johnson. Come on now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Are you going to take him to dinner at Hello Chicago Cut so you can get a free steak? Because I just mentioned the place.
You are so perceptive. You're so perceptive, Tony.
Oh, welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Draymond Green wants Jordan Poole to move on. Madison Keys upsets Iga Swiatek, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the comments of Baltimore Ravens defensive back Marlon Humphrey, who says he is a hater where the Kansas City Chiefs are concerned. Humphrey urged the Buffalo Bills to beat the Chiefs, and Humphrey said, quote, "The Bills or whoever NFC team gotta beat the Chiefs. We can't let them keep getting away with this," unquote. Wilbon, have the Chiefs become a hateable dynasty to you?
Not to me, Tony. No, they just haven't. For one, to be hateable just for winning, you got to win a lot more, a lot longer. And I'm thinking historically because I'm old enough to think Yankees, Canadians, I'm talking, the old Celtics, meaning Bill Russell Celtics, even though I was only old enough to catch the end of that. And if you want to come into more modern times, if you wanted to hate the Shaq, Kobe Lakers, because over a period of time, 2 different periods, Phil Jackson and Kobe's Lakers were great, Michael Jordan and the Bulls. No, 3 out of 5 is a lot. It's greatness. If they get 3 in a row, you can hate them. If they go, that would be 4 out of 6, you can hate them. But Tony, they also, you don't even know who they are. You know who Patrick Mahomes is. You know who Kelsey is. And that's kind of it. I mean, maybe you know Chris Jones, but for the most part, they're not identifiable yet. Yeah. They're not out there so long, and they don't do obnoxious things in public. They don't over-celebrate. They don't get on and make jerks of themselves on TV. No, I find them completely likable, and you and I have not talked about this. I wonder how you feel.
Yeah, I had never heard anybody say they hated the Chiefs until Mr. Humphrey just unloaded on them. And my feeling is that maybe Mr. Humphrey and his Baltimore Ravens teammates, if they played better, they would have a chance to knock the Chiefs out, and you wouldn't have to ask the Buffalo Bills to do that. Because the Baltimore Ravens basically do nothing in the playoffs but fizzle. They have won 78 games in 7 years. There's no other NFL team ever that has won that many games in that period of time that hasn't made the Super Bowl, just like the Ravens haven't made the Super Bowl. So maybe Mr. Humphrey should tend to his own garden. Why do people hate the Chiefs? Well, you would say that Patrick Mahomes gets all these calls. And in the playoffs in the last 4 years, he has gotten 7 roughing calls. And in those 4 years, there have been 36 penalties against the Chiefs and 66 against opponents. But maybe they are legitimate. Would you hate them because Taylor Swift shows up to Chiefs games? Call the NFL front office. They love that. Would you hate them because Andy Reid and Travis Kelce are in a lot of commercials? That's everybody's dream to be in commercials, even Mr. Humphrey. So I think you, A, should admire them, and B, you should be quiet if you don't beat them. If you don't beat them.
Yeah, particularly anybody from that squad right now. And let's point out, they have won a couple of Super Bowls, just not lately, not in that 70-whatever game winning stretch. But, Tone, I'm with you. I mean, there's a lot of State Farm ads, but still, first of all, most of them are really, really funny, particularly the ones with Andy Reid. But secondly, nobody knows that they're not household. They're not the 70 Steelers where like 11 guys and 9 are going to the Hall of Fame. No, sorry. They don't meet the standard. Not for me. Not yet. Now to the NBA, where Draymond Green wants Jordan Poole to move on from the punch Green delivered that ruptured their relationship. It happened while they were Warriors teammates in the 2022 preseason. Poole is now a Wizard, of course, and after facing the Dubs Saturday, he said, quote, "I love most of those guys over there," close quote. To which Draymond responded on his podcast, quote, "I really am sorry. That statement was kind of like it was looking for some sympathy. Kind of keep wanting to make me out to be the bad guy. Move on, bro. It is what it is." Close quote. Tony, who looks worse here, Poole or Green?
I think Draymond Green looks far worse. That's my opinion. And this is coming from a guy who has supported Draymond Green throughout his entire career in most of these controversies and who supported him in this particular incident. But for Draymond to say to Poole, "You've got to move on. You've got to stop saying this," basically to blame Poole. It ignores the history of the event and ignores what happens after, Mike. Jordan Poole was on the best team in the NBA, and they traded him to the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards. This is like being exiled to the moon. It doesn't matter what Poole does, if he scores points, if he has effort. It doesn't matter. The team stinks. They're 6-36. Nobody watches them. Nobody cares about them. Now, you can say that Golden State is in decline now, which they are, but they were a dynasty. The Wizards are going to be consigned to the dustbin of history. Jordan Poole got the worst of this. He got punched, he got embarrassed, and then he got traded to a terrible team. He got the worst of it.
I'm going to isolate just on the comments and how tacky and classless and they seem. Not seem, they are. I mean, Draymond should be bigger than this, all right? And it's just like, not only did I do this thing, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but I'm still going to be a bully. It's just being a bully. And, we're at a time now in the NBA where there are not that many people that are going to stand up. I would love to have seen Draymond try some of this behavior with, say, Charles Oakley, and, Anthony Mason. Because then he would have been meeting equals, and those guys would have gotten in some dust-ups, and there would have been no officials. They would have folded their arms like in a hockey fight and said, have at it. But Draymond, he says, get past it. Stop. You offended someone. You committed the offensive behavior. You admit that, and now you're going to say, move on. I mean, come on. I know Draymond's from a tough place. So am I, the south side of Chicago. And that behavior just wouldn't fly. It just wouldn't. Draymond is bigger than this. He knows what he did. And by the way, Tony, a lot of people around the league have a problem with Poole, and they're not really mad at Draymond, and he knows that. So you let it go. You be the bigger guy, but he can't. He just can't bring himself to do that.
I agree with that. Yeah, he pulled the scab off the wound. When he says that Poole should move on, he has moved on. He's moved on to the worst team in the league. So let it go. Let's move now to the Australian Open. Earlier today, American Madison Keys upset the number 2 seed, Iga Swiatek, in the third set tiebreaker to get to the finals, where she will face number 1 seed Aryna Sabalenka. Tonight, we have the men's semifinals. Novak Djokovic will play Alexander Zverev, and number 1 seed Jannik Sinner will play American Ben Shelton. Wilbon, where do you want to start?
Tone, I'll start with Keys, because I think this may be the biggest victory or second largest victory of her career. And I was paying a lot of attention to Madison Keys and wanted to see some of that and did. And cheers to Madison Keys. But this final foursome for the men in Australia, and I know you're not as big on Australia as the other 3 events, U.S. Open, French, and Wimbledon, but Tone, this is huge. And part of it, again, is because Djokovic is where he is at this stage of his career, at this age. And so I find this foursome irresistible. I started paying more attention to Ben Shelton 2 years ago, watched him in person in Washington when he played, and he's got a certain amount of charisma as we in America look for an American player to sort of at least be present and available in some Final Fours. Well, here's Ben Shelton, and he's gotten there further than Tiafoe and some others, and Sinner's number 1. It's irresistible, Tone, to me, the Final Four men, so I really do want to see that as well.
I'm going to leave that to you, and I'm going to go back to Madison Keys. I was walking the dog. I got home about 7 in the morning, and I turned on the television, and I'm right in the middle of the third set between Madison Keys and Swiatek. So I got to watch the third set and a tiebreaker, sort of an odd tiebreaker to me, first one to 10, so I had to pay attention because it was a different number than I was used to. And I will tell you, Mike, that the level of tennis was extraordinarily high. I mean, they were hitting it hard, and it was really good to watch. So Keys, it's 5-5 in the third, and Keys gets broken to 6-5, and I figure she's done. Swiatek's going to serve it out. But no, Keys comes back and breaks. They get to the tiebreak. Keys goes down maybe 3-1, maybe 4-2, and you think she's done. But no, she wins, I think, like 8 of the next 14, and she wins 10-8, and your heart is in your mouth with all of it. It's the first time she's been to a major final since the U.S. Open final, I think, in 2017. That's nearly 8 years. That's a really long time. It's a really long time. Then she lost to Sloane Stephens another American who sort of has disappeared. She was 20, Keys was 22 at the time and up and coming. Now she's 29. She might be near the end. It looked like, Mike, it was the greatest triumph of her life. She's cried into the towel right as soon as the thing was over. And now she's got a chance to knock off the 2 and the 1 in a row, back to back. That would be something. Let's take a break. Coming up, how should a defender approach Patrick Mahomes? We're going to ask Booger McFarland. I almost said Patrick McEnroe because we were talking about tennis.
He can just carry his own yellow penalty flag because it's going to come flying out. We'll also ask him how Vic Fangio's Eagles defense will stack up against Jaden Daniels. Tennis is pretty good right now. The tennis is fairly compelling. It is.
Let's get back into the NFL with our great friend, ESPN NFL and college football analyst, Mr. Booger McFarland. Today, wearing a shirt from Isleworth Country Club in Orlando. Let's start with the Bills and the Chiefs, Booger. You played defense. How should a defender tackle Patrick Mahomes and, I guess, avoid a penalty?
Cautiously. Based on what we've seen lately, if you breathe on him, they're going to throw a flag. Hopefully in the AFC title game, they will be able to police this the right way. Patrick Mahomes, I get it. He's a quarterback, maybe the best quarterback in the National Football League, and he's afforded some protection. But when he's out of the pocket, he's a runner. And they got to treat him that way because he's shown the propensity to go down the sideline. And just when you think he's going to go out of bounds, he continues up and gets another 15 yards. I think as a defender, you got to go ahead and take your shot. Now, that doesn't mean you hit him against the rules. That means that you tackle him to the ground because guess what? This is the AFC title game. You can't allow Patrick to extend these plays, which we know he's going to do on a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. He always extends the plays with his legs in these big games. And as a defender, you got to go play him, and you got to play him very aggressively.
Yeah, he's not just making fools of the defenders, he's making fools of the zebras with some of these calls, Booger. Let's go to the other side of the ball and talk about the Chiefs' defense for a second. They struggled against the Bills in Buffalo's regular season win. Do you expect to see an entirely different Kansas City defense this time around, or they're going to struggle again?
No, I think we're going to get the best of both teams. I think Steve Spagnuolo, he's known as Big Game Steve, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's going to bring their best. But here's what's so tough to defend about this Buffalo offense. Who are you going to double? Who are you going to key on? Remember, Stephon Diggs is gone. So is it Shakur? Is it Kincaid? Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Amari Cooper? They have so many weapons. And I didn't even talk about James Cook coming out of the backfield. And so I think Josh Allen has to do a really good job of distributing the football, and that's what makes them so tough to defend. But Steve Spagnuolo, here's one thing to key on. When we get in a crucial moment, whether that's in the red zone or whether that's in the last 2 minutes of the game, Steve Spagnuolo is always going to bring the blitz. He is going to go down swinging, and so if I know it, and I'm telling you guys, you got to think that Buffalo knows it. So watching a key moment late in the game or late in the drive, Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, is going to bring a blitz. The key will be, can Buffalo pick it up? If they can, they'll make a big play. If they don't, it could be a turning point in the game, guys.
Well, in the AFC title game, we've got Steve Spagnuolo and his defense. In the NFC, we got Vic Fangio and his Eagles defense. Booger, what's been working so well for them, and how do you think they're going to deal with Jaden Daniels?
Mike, I'm going to put this in your wheelhouse and try to relate this to basketball. So in basketball, they play this zone defense, whether it's a 2-3 zone or a matchup zone. It kind of protects the guys that can't play one-on-one so much, and it allows so many eyes to be on the basketball. Now let's take this to football. Vic Fangio plays this 2-deep safety look. So he's always got 2 safeties that are about 12 to 14 yards deep on either side of the field, and they're playing top down. And so they got vision on the football. The whole design of that, not to give up big plays. And so he's going to have as many eyes as he can on Jaden Daniels. Now, that still doesn't matter because next to Lamar Jackson, I think Jaden Daniels is the most elusive quarterback in football. Vic Fangio is going to try to keep as many eyes as possible, and it's worked for him this year. They were 30th in defense last year. They're number 1 this year. I got to think Vic Fangio, his scheme has played a very pivotal role in that this season.
A very interesting answer. I mean, I'm following that all the way. That was very interesting. I mean, I care about this game, obviously, because I live in Washington, D.C., and we'll get you out of here on this. If you were Washington on defense, would you load up and try and stop Saquon Barkley and try to force the Eagles to pass?
To me, that's the only way you can play this game. The easiest thing to do in football, guys, is to turn around and hand the football off and run the football, because it doesn't take it doesn't take chemistry, it doesn't take any work. It's just turn around and hand it off. And I think if the Philadelphia Eagles are able to do that, this is going to be an easy game. You can look at Saquon Barkley's yardage at the end of the game, and you'll be able to know whether or not the Eagles win the game. If Barkley has 150 plus yards, more than likely the Eagles won. If he's around that 95 to 100 yards, that bodes well for Washington. But the key is they can't give up the explosive runs, that 50, that 60, that 70-yard run. If they don't do that, then they will eventually put the game in Jalen Hurts' hands. And if you're Washington and you're a Commander fan, you want Jalen Hurts to beat you. And I think if you are Dan Quinn, the head coach, and you're in your staff meeting, you say, hey, guys, we're playing with house money. But the one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to allow Saquon Barkley to beat us. I'll lose to A.J. Brown. I'll lose to Devontae Smith. I'll lose to Jalen Hurts throwing the football. But the one person that will not beat us is Saquon Barkley. I think that's the game plan, and that's the attitude that the Commanders have to have. And in the end, I think this is the one thing you want. This is what I want. I want this game in the fourth quarter, a one-score game, and I want my LSU guy, Jaden Daniels, having the football. I'll take that, and I'll live with the results.
Snuck that LSU reference in there, Tony. He got it in.
Yeah, no, I get that. But Saquon Barkley had 2 home runs last week. You know, a 60 and a 70, something like that. Thank you, Booger.
Thanks, Booger. Appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Sean McVay wants to know whether Matthew Stafford plans on playing next season.
Man. And SGA goes for 54 in OKC's latest win. 54, Tony. 54 from SGA.
Happy time, people. Happy 54th birthday, Julie Foudy. Foudy was a starter at midfield on the 1991 and 1999 women's winning World Cup teams. These teams also featured Mia Hamm and Brandi Chastain, who has the most famous image in women's soccer history. Foudy went to Stanford, where she was the National Player of the Year in her senior year, 1991. She was also on the American teams that won Olympic gold medals in 1996 in Atlanta and 2004 in Athens. She won a silver medal in 2000 in Sydney. Now Foudy covers sports for Turner and ESPN, and we really would love to have her back as a guest on PTI.
Tony, I suppose you can find somebody that's smarter and cooler and more talented than Julie Foudy. I haven't, and I was lucky to be involved in a project with golf and Grant Thornton that Julie's involved in, and it's just terrific being her. Let's pressure her, yes, to be back on the show. Julie, what else you got going on? Come hang out with us.
Happy anniversary, Klay Thompson. On this day 10 years ago, the Warriors' Splash Brothers scored an NBA record 37 points in 1 quarter against Sacramento, breaking the record of 33 shared by George Gervin and Carmelo Anthony. In that quarter, Thompson pulled a Christian Laettner. He was a perfect 13 of 13 from the field, including 9 of 9 for 3, and he was 2 for 2 from the foul line. Thompson finished the game with 52 points in 33 minutes. After so much success with the Warriors, Thompson signed with Dallas this year. In December, he had his season-high game, 29 points, hitting 7 of 11 from 3 to lead the Mavericks past his old team.
I was in Dallas at courtside last night. Not only did I see no Luka, there was no Klay. I love watching Klay. He's going to be back fairly soon. I hope the Mavericks have to have those guys out there, and they're going to be missing Derek Lively for 2 months, which is just awful. But Klay, I want to see Klay Thompson as often as I can. We don't know how much longer it's going to be. That's going to be the case.
Happy trails to Austin Matthews and Elvis Merzlikins hockey sticks. In the first period of last night's Columbus win in Toronto, Blue Jackets goalie Elvis Merzlikins snatched away the stick that belonged to Austin Matthews of the Maple Leafs. Matthews then picked up Merzlikins' goalie stick and appeared ready to play with it before dropping it to the ice and skating away. Too late, it turned out. Both players were assessed minor penalties for illegal equipment. You can't take an opponent's hockey stick away. In other equipment news from this game, Matthew Olivier lost his helmet when Ryan Reeves knocked it off his head with a right hand.
Whoa. Man, that's an old-fashioned 1970s hockey fight. it's irresistible for me to say Elvis was the hero the most, but he never meant spit to me. I had to get that in there, Tone. Just saying.
Let's quote lines from other songs. Absolutely. Let's go to the big finish. Victor Wembanyama scored 30. The Spurs beat the Pacers in Paris. Your thoughts?
Wemby is coming. He's coming. And it may not take till the end of the season. He's coming now. Rams coach Sean McVay says he would like to know sooner rather than later whether Matthew Stafford plans to play next season. What's your guess?
He's still a terrific quarterback. I don't have a guess. I hope he plays. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 54 as the Thunder beat the Jazz. I know you're impressed.
He's the MVP. I know Joker is having a great season, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP, period. Coach Cal in Arkansas beat Georgia for their first SEC win. Was it significant?
I didn't think it was going to take almost till, February to get that. Last second shot is very exciting ending. Last one, Celtics and Lakers tonight. Are you intrigued?
The Lakers are trying to hold down a playoff spot, Tony, but they're going to need to keep winning to do that. And won 3 out of 4. Let's see if they can keep it going.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time. And I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're on ESPN 2 tomorrow, Knuckleheads. And now, your sports center.